Alright, what's up everybody? Gonna do a quick video today. We've got one new chess diver AI on chess.com, the Crusher. Only 25% have beat it. I'm not sure what the rating is. The other ones are literally at 100. I'm not sure how that even happens. But we're gonna try to take on the Crusher today. I assume it's harder than the Pincer, which I think was around 1600. So I'm assuming this game will take me a little bit longer, but let's just jump into it. We'll go e4. Try to see if we can do this first go. For the sake of time, hopefully. We'll go d4 here. e5. I kind of go back and forth here. I don't really like to take. So I'll typically either go knight f3 or push d5. Trying to decide what I want to do here. Thinking d5, if something like knight d4, we could always just push. That would be fine. d5, I think, kind of forces knight back. Knight probably doesn't want to jump. It's going to get kicked regardless. Let's push d5. Knight f3, just we get some trades. The e-pawn's a little bit weaker, it feels like. I think this is fine for black, but... So here, I was going to go knight f3. I kind of like the idea of maybe eventually having f4 to push. I'm going to start with bishop d3. This is not an opening that I'm overly familiar with, so I'm going to try and stay as flexible as I can. This makes d6 look pretty enticing. d6, obviously the knight will jump, bishop's hitting the pawn. I could always just drop back to bishop e2 then. I don't regret bishop d3. c6 is not a move that I would consider. But it is certainly enticing now to try and not only push that pawn, but keep it there. I guess the question is going to become, is it too easy for black to attack if I push it? I can always defend e5 with f6. Could be a little bit gray, but it's probably fine. I really don't want to just take. We're going to push. I'm expecting here. And then my thought here was just bishop back to e2 to cover this pawn. Could also go bishop c4. That's probably a little bit more accurate. Let's do that. And we'll let black tell me if there's some tactic I'm missing here. Here, I'll just go knight c3. Pinning the knight makes sense. So my intent was that if black plays knight f4, I was just going to take it. If I go bishop d2, knight f4, not necessarily ideal. Could always do something like queen e2, queen d3. Queen d3 doesn't seem like a bad move. But it does immediately walk into knight f4 because the knight's still pinned. Tricky. Obviously something like knight e2 hangs the pawn. I don't think I have any fun tactics yet with sacking the bishop. So my thought here is to go f3. It seems like kind of a weakening move, but it also, at least initially, seems very solid. I suppose this follow-up idea to that is after f3, black goes queen c5, and how am I defending that pawn? So it may be an issue if I'm losing the pawn anyways. Yup. Okay. I don't like my position quite as much after that queen a5 move. I'm going to start with bishop d2. You just go straight for d6, hitting the pawn. Black could have possibly just taken there, but then I have some discoveries, which is certainly going to be less than ideal. And I don't know if I have a great way to stop them from taking there. I don't think I really have any way. I want to keep my bishop on this diagonal, so I'm going to drop it back. We're going to drop this pawn here. Black takes with the queen. Not quite what I expected, but certainly fine. I think black has too many pieces to warrant f4, so I'm going to go knight f3. Too many pieces covering that square. I'm not necessarily opposed to offering the queen trade. It's probably not in my best interest. I'm going to castle. b5. Okay. Thinking queen e2. Intent is still to take on knight f4. Let's do that. Black moves the queen out of the way. Makes sense. I think now I'm going to go a3. Prevent my knight from getting kicked all the way back, at least initially. I was thinking rook d1, but I do think I want that square for my knight. And I may just move that knight anyways. It's not doing a ton right now, so I think I'm going to go knight e3. We'll just drop the bishop back there. So here, c5. Here I could always do this. I could try to provoke c5 if there's any benefit to that. The other option is just to move my queen off of the square. So I'm wondering queen e3. I didn't want that square for my knight. This still doesn't work. Okay, vetoing queen e3. I was thinking queen e3 just because then I would add some support to c5 if I ever went bishop b4 and black played c5, but black still just takes. And wins the piece. I don't want to just allow b4. If I go knight e3, b4, it's not terrible. I can go bishop c4, take, take, take. I could then take with the rook. Queen gets out of the way, I have to move the rook. But I don't have to take with the rook there. I could always take with the b-pawn. And that square does look pretty nice for my knight. I could then go rook d1, even look to plant my knight on d6. I do like that. I would still cover the e-pawn. We're going to try it. Don't get b4. I do block my own bishop from taking that pawn there. So here, black is really just kind of forcing me to get out of the pen anyways, which I think I'm fine with. Queen d1 or queen e1. So I wonder queen e1, b4 takes here, knight in. It's getting a little dicey, for sure. It's making me think that maybe queen d1 is a bit more accurate. I would love to put my rook on that square. Certainly, but I don't know if trapping my rook on f1 is the right idea. That's probably not. I'm going to go queen d1 to give myself that flexibility. So I think there was some validity to not being overly concerned about this push, but now I don't have knight f5. So now there certainly is. Could consider bishop d3 possibly. It's not great. Probably not worth considering. Maybe I just want to move the rook off this square. Do I want to kick the knight? Still don't love b4, bishop b4, just because of c5, and not sure what I'm doing after that. It could be okay to incite b5, then drop back. But then that move hits a little bit harder. I think I need to start with rook e1. We're going to get out of that pin. They play d6, which makes sense. That move hits quite a bit harder now. That makes sense. Black is certainly locking down the position here. I'm thinking about c4. Knight jumps in. So maybe I need to kick that knight first. I'm running into danger if I kick the knight and they play h3 check. I don't think so. That seems all right. Knight here, up. Knight to g5. Probably need to take there. Gonna take with the pawn. That could be dangerous, but I could always bring the rook over to defend on h2. Something you start here, kick the knight, go through that whole sequence, and then we go c4. Just so I don't have to deal with any knight d3. That's kind of the thought there. If I kick, the knight jumps back. That doesn't really change anything. I think then I just go c4 immediately. Don't really want to take the knight first if it does go to e6. This pawn is hanging right now, but that sequence is fairly forcing. And I would always have some discoveries, possibly. Moving that knight. All right, we're going to start with g3. Does give the check. We'll go up. They don't take or jump back to g5. Bishop c8 is not a move I had considered. I guess I don't see why black can't play that. Still thinking c4. I don't think this is necessarily going to change my plan. Am I too concerned about knight here? Knight here. Hitting this. I probably should be. I should be concerned about that. But I don't necessarily just want to move the knight out of the way just to cover that pawn. And at the same time, I don't know if I have a better option. So maybe c4 is what I need to do. If the knight takes here, black's hitting this pawn twice, but even if I let them take that, I can always just move the queen up. I think I need to go for it. Down a pawn, we need to play aggressively. Knight here, I'm fine letting them take. Let's go through these again. If knight here, queen e2. I'm not really threatening to take that knight at all, but the knight also doesn't have a ton of good places to go. and I think that's a fine position. So I'm going to take. And here, am I missing anything? Don't think so. Threatening to hit that. Makes sense. I think I'm going to ignore that temporarily. Bishop check. So that's forced. Bishop back. And if I jump the knight in. I was also considering bishop b4 just to protect this pawn. But I don't think I want to... I think I want to start with bishop d5. Or knight d5, excuse me. Knight d5, hit the queen, takes, take. I'm hitting the knight. Rook here, I guess. I don't want to overthink this one. This seems like the obvious move. Bishop takes. We'll take back. And the knight just jumps back. Okay. I guess the point being that if I move the bishop, black just jumps this knight back to e4. I can't really take. If I take here, black takes the bishop and is still up the pawn. And I don't know if I have a good response beyond that. Yeah. Anything with c7 first, queen takes. No, I could always take here with check. That is an option. You can end up losing this bishop. It could still get ugly. Takes, takes, take here, knight. Actually, it's probably just takes, takes here, and then rook b2. And then that's a much bigger threat. I can go queen e3 there. But I'm still not really holding everything together, right? Because at the end of that, black could just take. Well, now I could take with the knight. I was going to say black could take, and on queen takes, if I do sack on f7, the queen could take the knight at the end. But I could always just take the bishop with the knight first. Oh, man. This computer's certainly a little bit harder than the other ones. Although I think I still lost to one of them on the first go. It's maybe not that much harder. So take. Here, queen takes, rook up. That's pretty nasty. Could do this. Queen takes. And then I have a check at the end. Maybe c7 is a good move. Queen here. Rook c1. What is black doing in that scenario? Because my point being that this knight is loose, and the only reason it's not just a free piece is because my bishop is also loose. So I'm trying to create a scenario where I can play bishop c6 with check and defend it, and then take the knight. And c7 seems like a way to do that. Regardless of where the queen moves, I could have that check next move. Here, knight takes doesn't work. Here, here, here. I mean, you got to defend that queen somehow, right? All right, we're going to try it. I like the look of it. Let's see what happens. So that pin makes sense. Here I was honestly thinking I had this. Why don't I have bishop e3? Takes. Takes. Here. And then I give a check. And then we take the knight. That looks like I'm winning a piece to me. Why am I not winning a piece? This is a bit more forcing, but still doesn't amount to much. Bishop e3. There's no forks with taking. So bishop e3. I would assume queen takes b2, because otherwise if the queen moves anywhere else, I just give a check, take the knight, and black's not even winning the pawn. Here, queen b2, check. King moves up, wherever, it doesn't matter. And then take the rook, rook takes, bishop takes. My bishop still covers knight here. On knight here. Is that the issue? So we end up with the rook here. My bishop's on f2. Black goes knight g4. I can always just move the rook over to f1 to cover. Let's try it. Knight check first. Okay. So I think this runs into the same issue though. Check. And then queen takes here, king up. And I guess black has the pawns for the piece, but I'd like to think I'd take the piece in that scenario. Are there any fun double sacks like here, here, here? Surely that doesn't do much for me. I don't think it does. Okay. Do I have anything better? I don't want to just take. That's no good. So I think I've got to start with the check. Have to start with the check. Here, I could just take the knight. Black takes this pawn. Not ideal. Okay. Let's see what black's got. Knight sack is tempting, for sure. Man, that almost just seems winning. Here, here, bishop d4. Let's say black goes to win the pawn. I could take with the bishop even. I'm really probably not getting much there. Maybe it's not worth it. It's tempting, but maybe it's not accurate. I don't want to lose the game off of a tactic that doesn't work. But man, knight e5 is so tempting. My rook is lined up real nice. Could always go knight d4. Black obviously doesn't want to take, because then I've got the discovery, I'm winning the rook. Knight d4 opens this up. Kind of the same thing with bishop d4, but that does a whole lot less. There's also knight e5, bishop here. But then the king steps up and that pawn's defended. Wouldn't get me much. This bishop's still defended, so I don't gain much by taking. What is best? What is best? Check. Here. Do I have anything else better? Knight e5, we'll look at this one more time. Bishop d4. Black has no way to defend that pawn with the rook. Rook has to move somewhere. Let's just assume rook b3. I could take with check. King here. That doesn't look great. I don't really think it is. I'm certainly winning 2 pawns for the piece, but that's not worth it. So the other option to consider would just be knight d4. Black has this threat. Maybe I need to be more mindful of that. Here, check, king h4. I'm sure the answer is yes. I need to be more mindful of that. I'm not getting mated there, but it's not a good position either. It kind of entices me more to play knight e5. Gotta move this knight. We'll start there. Knight's gotta move. It's either d4 or e5. Knight d4, I don't love after king e6. I don't have much going there. I could always push here. Push g4, but Black probably just immediately plays h5, and that's no good. Take, but takes with check, and I'm probably close to getting mated there. Leaning knight e5. I'm really leaning that way. Knight e5, obviously here I could just take, and that would be great. Would be more than happy to take that offer. So here, Black's got to play e5. Takes on e5. And then I just need to consider which bishop move I want to make. All right, I've thought about it too long. We're doing it. I wanted to bad enough that it's like, how could I not? Bishop d4 is my gut reaction. If the king were to move, I could just take this pawn. Cannot take. Here, rook b3. Check. Here, here. Takes. Maybe I take with the bishop. By taking with, so if I go here, rook b3, if I take with the bishop, I'm preventing rook a3, because that's obviously a discovery. Rook b3 takes, and then Black just seems like they're in kind of a bad position. g4, I bump up I've got discoveries coming. This bishop is protected. This pawn is hanging. Let's try it. They start with check. Okay, so here I have to move up. Guys, nobody told me about rook h2. Oh, man. Yeah, that was a terrible blunder. That was coming regardless. I think g4 was forced. Yeah. Let's do a quick game review. I don't think I'm going to try that one again. That one took long enough. 2,500 rated. I did not play great. 2,100. Yeah, not bad. Pretty interesting opening choice for sure. Didn't like d6, which makes sense. After that queen a5 move, I kind of realized that that pawn was going to hang. Not bad here. a5. Bishop d2 is a mistake. 0.7. h4 is a recommendation. Wow. Probably not the move I would have made. Bishop b3. Yeah, protect the bishop. We lost that pawn. Wasn't a fan of castling. Queen e2. Tough to find a move like that. Or to really determine that it's better. I don't think I'm quite at that level yet. Knight d1 was a mistake. Didn't like that. But knight e3 was a great move. I guess maybe black made a mistake in there. So the whole point was to get to knight e3. Allows knight f4, queen d1 back is best. g6. Rook e1 is a mistake. So it just wants to kick the knight immediately. I had some concerns over just allowing this. And then I was going to lose the pawn. But I guess that really doesn't lose the pawn, does it? Kind of missed that one. I don't know if that would have affected how I played too much, but I will say that I wasn't a fan of this, at least initially, because I saw that after protecting the rook, black could take, and I thought I was losing that pawn, but I obviously missed having the discovery and winning the queen. All right. d6, kick the knight, king up. Bishop back was a mistake, which did seem strange to me. Queen d7, also those, not a move I even considered. c4 was a great move. That kind of seemed like my only chance in the position. Knight x e4. So it just wanted queen c2 there. I guess just giving me the check immediately. Queen e2 I didn't like. Queen c2 is slightly better. So here the position is still relatively similar. b8 was a mistake. Taking is good. h3 check. e6 is a mistake. Knight d5, yep. Yeah, I did not want to let black take here. This bishop was important to maintain some pressure here. Knight needed to do something to open up an attack on one of these knights, just so I could hopefully make some progress. Knight f6. c7 was the right move. Okay, I'm proud I found that one then. Because it hangs the pawn, but it seemed like I should have just been winning material. Bishop e3. King g2 is a miss. That move completely loses. Really? Queen x b2 is a miss, which allows it. So here, because knight x d5, okay, so here the point being that if I do this, black gets the fork at the end. Wow, that's tough to see. So this is a mistake because I allow the double fork. on f4. That's tough to see. Okay. So h1 was the correct move, but then black blundered right back, missed this. And so then here I had what I had been intending, which was check. It did not like takes here. Knowing how the game ended, rook c2 here makes a lot of sense. Protecting this whole row. Obviously, that's not what I did. I took, and then in this position, it's just hard for me to protect there. And then knight xe5 was a blunder. Still even position, not terrible. But with the checkmate coming, and then bishop d4 blundered. Yeah. Just missed that was checkmate. So honestly, not a bad game. I had some nice tactical shots that I found. But just did not play cautiously enough. Didn't foresee enough of the attack that was coming. And then we got mated. So, all right, not bad. 2100, supposed to be a 2500 computer, so the Crusher played a little below its rating. But opponent found some nice moves in the middle game. Yeah, I would say that. All right, pretty fun. We might come back, try to take down the Crusher again, see if we can contribute to that percentage. Pretty impressive at 25%. I'm not sure how this works. I thought it was like the chess.com community. As the community wins more games. I don't know who the community is, but evidently everyone beat the first two. It's impressive that 25% have beat the 2500 rated computer. I'm not a part of that list yet, but hopefully we'll get there. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully these are entertaining. We'll see you in the next one.